July 18th. Annie, would you mind doing a bit of a roll call?
Sure. So online, it looks like we have Cheryl Hartman, Jennifer Davis, Kyla Leonard, Steve Nide, Juanita Bureau, Leidy Wagner, Martin Kidston, MCAT. In 206, we have Commissioner Slotnick, Ann Hughes, Andrew Chorney, Brian West, Allison France, Kaylee Becker, Emmy Bristow, Carrie Powers, and myself, Andy Cathy.
Good job. All those names. Thanks. Well done. Thank you for that. Okay, before we dive in, do we have any public comment on items not on the agenda? All right, let's jump to the consent agenda. Is there anything on this consent agenda anyone would like to pull out and talk about?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
All right, Brian, I never get clarity on this. With two people, do I second or do we just, okay, I'll second that. Any public comment? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, Leidy's got our first action item.
Good morning. This is a request for reimbursement for Thomas's Big Sky Trust Fund Job Creation Grant. This round, they have created one new job, so we're requesting $5,000 for that job, and this is their third job that they've created for this grant so far.
Done.
I move to approve the request.
And I'll second that and see if anybody wants to comment on this. Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Go Thomas.
Yeah, go
Great.
Thomas. Thanks, Leidy.
Thank you.
Haley.
Yes, good morning. So this item is related to the Marshall Mountain Open Space Bond Project. So there are two items here. One is an option for purchasing the Izzy Dog parcel, which, as you all may remember, is the parcel that's kind of talked about as the base area that you first would get to at the end of Marshall Road. And this is, again, just an option agreement. So it would, if we enter into it, it would give us the option to purchase the property, and that option we could exercise within 6 months. And then, so then once that option is exercised, it becomes a contract. And what some of the terms of the option agreement set are the purchase price, which is set at $1,850,000, which would be a bargain sale. A bargain sale is a sale of real estate at below appraised value. We don't yet know final appraised value, but we're confident it's more than that. The other thing is it sets a deadline for closing on the property if we are to exercise the option, which would be January 31st, 2024. And then of high importance as well, it sets conditions. And so given that we are a public entity, not a private buyer, those conditions are a little bit different than maybe you'd see in other option contracts. And they would include the requirement that we go through all necessary approvals, we secure funding, that's a pretty common one, and that we reach decision points at public hearings. You know, the county commissioners would act on the agreement or idea to purchase the property. I think those are the highlights. Oh, and then there's a second document, which is the notice of option agreement. And that is basically just restating that these two entities are entering into an option agreement. And that is simply for the purpose of it being recorded. So it's on the title. If anybody pulls a title report on this property, they would see right away that an option agreement has been entered into by these two parties.
Thanks for shepherding this huge, transformative, massive project along. So I just had a couple of quick questions about the other two parcels. How does that fit into this?
Yep. So because they are three separate parcels, each 160 acres owned by separate entities, what Missoula County will do is enter into agreements with each landowner. So we're working on an agreement with Five Valleys Land Trust. They will be working, they have to go through their own internal approval with their boards. So they're working on that. And once they get the go ahead from their board, then we can bring that to a public meeting, as with this one. And then same with the Conservation Fund. We're negotiating an option agreement with them that we're just going back with some edits. And so that would also come to an administrative meeting for approval.
Right, and those closing dates will be after the January 31st.
Yep, I think, I can't remember what the draft option agreement with Five Valleys is, but they're all at least January 31st or later.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great, thanks.
yeah.
Good work too. This is a huge
And-
thing.
Is the
Sorry,
options,
and later, how much later do you, ballpark, sorry, Kaylee?
I didn't quite catch that one either.
You said the other two are later than January 1st, ballpark, are we talking 6 months, what?
Yeah, I think the draft agreement with the Conservation Fund is for April 2024. But again, we're still going back on edits with that one. But tentatively, that one's set in April 2024. And then I think the Five Valleys Land Trust one might be January 31st, 2024 as well.
Okay,
But again, that one is also going through edits because we're still going back and forth.
great.
Yeah.
Andrew had a question too.
so the option expires on the 17th of January? Is it a 6-month option from today?
Yep. So we have 6 months to exercise the option. Yep. So that would
And you
be,
have to close before the 31st of January.
yes. Yeah.
So you have to exercise the option well in advance of the expiration date.
Yep, exactly.
And Martin has his hand up too.
Hope so.
Hey,
Martin?
yeah, good morning. Hey, Callie, I know there's a lot of other moving parts in this, like the Open Lands Committee. Can you explain the process? All the other boards and committees have to weigh in and how this ends up leading to a public hearing at the county for a final decision?
Yep, that is a great question. Thank you. So in terms of those public processes the option agreement refers to, part of that has to do with securing funding, which because the part of the funding that is being proposed for this project includes the open space bond funding, that goes through the standard public process of recommendations from the city's Open Space Advisory Council Committee for the city share that's being, or the share from the open space bond that's, under the city's jurisdiction. And then similarly, the request for the county share of the open space bond has to be recommended by the open space or the Open Lands Committee, which is the county committee. And those recommendations are then passed on to each governing body. And there will then be a joint hearing between city council and the Board of County Commissioners, where they will vote on whether or not to approve the use of open space bond funding. And that would be in addition to a few other grants that we are waiting to hear back from that would be the funding package that's proposed. So that's just on the funding side. And then for the actual decision around ownership and management, those would happen through the Parks and Trails Advisory Board. They would make recommendations pertaining to ownership and management, and then their recommendations would go to the Board of County Commissioners for vote at a public hearing, probably a Thursday public hearing. And then there are some additional pieces and agreements that will be moving through related to due diligence, and all those items would go to the standard administrative meetings, just like this did today. Any leases, additional agreements, things like that.
Great.
Thank you.
Martin? Okay. All right, Juan, what do you think?
Yeah, I didn't know if Brian, did you have, or Wes, have anything to add or say?
Not unless you have any further questions, Juan.
No, okay. I move to approve the option agreement.
I'll second this and ask for any public comment. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
This is the next big step in a generational project.
Yes, and one more quick qualification that I realized I wasn't clear on is I had kind of talked about the open space bond recommendations as like this needs to happen, and actually they have happened because there was the joint meeting between the Open Space Advisory Committee and the Open Lands Committee last Thursday, and they each did recommend approval of up to 1 million each, so 2 million of open space bond dollars. So I just want to be clear that that recommendation has happened. It is not outstanding. Apologies.
Okay, well done. So we are moving along.
Do you have any idea what the remaining parcels will cost, or is that even public?
The option agreements that we have have 400,000 for the conservation fund parcel and 75,000 for the Five Valleys Land Trust parcel.
And those are both 168.
Yep.
Great.
That seems like it's below market.
Yeah, we'll definitely have the,
Little bit.
yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
You were saying 1,850,000.
Yeah, and they're all pretty different in terms of like
Yeah,
their
yeah, I
placement,
understand.
some
I
have
understand.
access. and-
Access is
Yeah.
related,
Yeah, so
infrastructure.
we'll still definitely be getting final appraisals for each to determine that final appraisal amount.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work. Steve Nide.
Yes, commissioners, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Am I allowed to share my screen?
No.
Yes.
Make sure you're a presenter here.
Andy,
So
Andy will promote you if it need be.
Okay. All right, so I come before you to ask you to sign a resolution to create a public road called Riverview Drive, just south of Sealy Lake. And if you can see my cursor, this was petitioned in 2015. What started this was a group of landowners up here needed legal access. Title company came to me and said, hey, is Riverview Drive a public right of way? And after much research, even though it's been treated as a public right of way for a long, long time, it wasn't legally a public right of way. And therefore, these folks up here were having trouble getting financing. So the landowners petitioned the board to create this public right of way to address their needs. And we did so, you did so. And now the embarrassing part. This was passed, the petition was passed in 2015. And this set on the back of my desk, a back burner item until recently. I wanted to create the certificate of survey to provide an exhibit along with the resolution. And it wasn't necessary. The right of way was already created legally. So the addition of this COS makes more clarity. And I just never got around to it. On the back burner with looming retirement, I decided I needed to clean up some loose ends. And so I have put this on the agenda for you to approve the resolution. But in looking at the resolution moments ago, I realized there's an error in it. So I don't want you to sign this one.
Okay.
Yes.
Twist.
Plot twist, right. So I've got to add 2 words and I'll get that to Annie and have her format it and then you can sign it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you for checking.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question while we're on Riverside Drive? Have we been maintaining this road since 2015?
Oh, we've been maintaining it for much longer. We've
Okay.
paved it, we've maintained it. There was a little twist in that the Clearwater River's bed of the river is owned by the state, and there's a bridge there. And even though we could create this public right of way on everything else, the landowners up here had to go to the state and actually purchase an easement across the stream so they could have continuous legal access to their property. So,
And the county maintains that bridge, right?
well, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Because we do all bridges from here to the moon. It's
Yep.
just.
Yeah, pretty
Thanks, I
much,
forgot about
even
that.
in the
Yeah.
city.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll get that 2 words added and send it up to Annie.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I would move not to this resolution.
Take some action, or can we just postpone? Table, okay. We will.
Oh man, I thought this would be our first time to not approve something. Okay, we'll table it.
Want to move to table it?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Steve.
you.
Okay, Kyla.
As edited,
As amended.
but they don't have that language, so they.
Yeah,
Okay.
They
gotta
would be.
I don't know what the magic 2 words are.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
know those things.
What's another 2 days? That's 3 years.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, you ready for the next item, commissioners?
We are, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so the next item is for the Parks and Trails Advisory Board. We have 2 vacant regular member seats and a vacant alternate seat. We had 4 new applicants, Chase Taylor, Brian Chazar, probably mispronounced that, Ann Gentry, and Steve Snyders. If you'll remember, Steve Snyders applied for the OLC board and put his application in for this board when he wasn't appointed. So there's potentially 3 seats to fill, 2 regular member seats through June 30th, 2026, and then the option to fill an alternate seat through the same June 30th, 2026 to the Parks and Trail Advisory Board.
Thanks, Kyla. I think it's really important. I think that the board was really hoping to have a little more rural representation. And so Steve Snyder from Lolo and Ann Gentry from Frenchtown, those are the 2 that I would propose.
I'll second that and second the sentiment as well. It's great to have rural representation. We haven't had that in the recent past and are glad that it can be the case now.
And they're very active in the endurance community. So they're going to be all over those parks and trails. Oh, and this doesn't answer your question about what do we need to do about alternates, or do we do this as a package, Kyla?
You can do it as a package. Yes, you can appoint to the 2 and either appoint to the alternate seat or just leave it vacant for other applicants.
I think let's leave it, or I'd be comfortable leaving it vacant until we find kind of the exact right fit that the board's looking for.
I would second that whole package.
Okay.
Any public comment? Juniper, do you have anything to add here?
Nope, thanks. I appreciate your time and attention.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Kyla.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Juniper.
Kyla.
Yeah, thanks, Kyla.
Then it looks like that's all we got, so we will be done.
Thank you.